Hey there, what is happening YouTube? Thanks for stopping back by the channel today. We're here with the Rustbelt mechanic. Today, as you can see, we've got the old Duramax pulled back up to the garage here because we've got some issues with leaks, both with coolant and our exhaust system has a really annoying leak to it also. So we're gonna go through today on how to test for the coolant leaks, hopefully find that one real quick, and get our exhaust problem taken care of as well. All right, so when we're working on these vehicles, whether it be a diesel or gas engine, testing a cooling system is pretty universal when it comes to doing the actual test. The first thing that we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to locate where we're able to pressurize the system from. How we go about testing the system is we're going to pressurize it from a pretty high point in the system. We're gonna put pressurized air into the system while it's hopefully full with either coolant, or we're able to top it off with water to be able to test to the point where we can get pressure into the system. And then we're going to remove our cap and we're going to put some kind of a pressurization device into the system here at the overflow bottle, or some of them have them on the radiator. So the first step is to find your reservoir bottle. We've got that over here, and this, as you guys can see, is the pressure cap where we're going to be testing from. So step one, this is where we're going to be testing from. Let's go see what kind of tools we've got to use. The first one is pretty universal. It's what most people see. Snap-on, Mac, even the Matco ones. This is pretty much the kit that most people are getting these days, and has the main adapter already built onto it for the standard US radiator or cooling system, and it also has adapters for some smaller ones as well as a screw-on style GM one. Now the downfall to this one is it's pretty much used for GM, some Chrysler and Ford stuff. You can maybe have some Honda and Acura things, but a lot of the, I guess, more oddball ones, this you're gonna have to buy a lot more adapters to be able to use, and this one is pretty much not gonna be able to test any kind of cooling system caps in the system either. Now for our second kit here from SP, now this one's going to be a little bit different style in the way that it actually clamps onto the system. Yes, it still connects onto the reservoir or to the radiator and still pressurizes the system, but there's a lot more adjustability in how it attaches to the system here. Also, there's going to be a lot of adapters for testing the caps on this one already into the main kit here. So we're going to look into the system. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Literally the two prongs on this one are going to screw right onto our reservoir right here, as the cap would be. It exactly mimics the cap. So that one, fortunately, is a whole lot easier in the way of hooking things up. Now this one, it's a little bit more complicated, but like I said, this one's going to be able to go on to a lot more vehicles without having so much in the way of getting more adapters. All right, here is the SP one, and like I said, it's a little bit more daunting because there's a whole lot more going on with this head, and you're able to set up a whole lot more things as well. You're able to adjust the depth on it. There is a bladder here that gets filled to actually seal into the unit, as well as sealing here on the top for the overflow, clamps that hold it on, as well as this nice threaded center section here to adjust how far and how tight this thing clamps onto the system as well. Here we have the availability to switch between airing up the bladder and airing up the actual system. And there's a little place here to put a hose for an overflow. If you're filling something up with air, obviously you're pressurizing the system and a lot of air pressure gets built up in the top end. So when you go to let it off, it might squirt a whole lot back at you. So that's what we have this here for, with an extra little port to be able to go back into our overflow. Now let's go ahead and show you guys how you're going to set this one up in the system. Your bladder is actually going to be connected into the inner portion of the bottle right here. It's not going to seal around the top ring. You guys can see right here, this is what I'm talking about. It's going to be sealing right here, whereas the other kit is going to be sealing around this top ring, which you can also see the imperfections in this, the grooves, and why that might not be the best seal for you as compared to this inner ring right here. Now, first things first, you're going to be setting the depth to be able to put this about 2/3 of the way into that ring right there. So when you attach this thing on, you're going to push it down onto the top. You're going to push these two little clamps down in to get them out of the way. And then this black section right here is able to turn to be able to set the depth of where this seats to the top of the bottle as to where this ends up being on that inner ring. So what we're initially doing is setting the depth to be able to get this bladder in the middle of that ring. Then after that, we're going to be able to adjust how tight we want these clamps to be able to sit onto the bottle. That's where this ring right here, which is going to turn back and forth. Once these I let go of the clamps, obviously they clamp down onto the over lip surface right there, and you can turn this to the left to kind of pull them up and tighten this whole thing against the system. After you have that initial setup done, this is actually pretty simple. We've got two different settings here to be able to pressurize the bladder or pressurize the system. The first thing we're going to have to do once we have this hooked up to the bottle is pressurize the bladder. We have our little bleed port right here. This is going to bleed off the air, and we're going to want to tighten this down to seal the system. After that, we're going to slide this over to the system section that says bladder. It's right here onto that one. So that would be pulling it that direction. At that point, all we have to do is pretty much just put about 1 pump's worth of air into the system, and you can see the bladder start to expand right there. You're going to put up to about 25 psi into that bladder. No more than that, nothing more than that is necessary, and that will hold itself onto that ring just as easily, and we're good to go. After we get that sealed onto the system, then all we have to do is slide back to the system portion right here, and then we're ready to pressurize the system. When we get to pressurizing the system right here, you can see on our gauge you have the pressure around the outside in PSI, and we're going to pressurize this system to about what the system's cap would be. You don't want to go much higher than that because obviously your system can only hold the pressure that the cap is rated at, and it would be bypassing and pressurizing through the cap and going through to the overflow. So it doesn't really matter how much more you pressurize that, but you might as well just pressurize the system up to what the cap says. On this specific one, our cap, I believe it says 16 pounds. So we're going to go to about 16 or 18 pounds right there on the cap. That's about all we're going to do. No need to go any higher to be able to test this system for any leaks. All right, first we're going to set up our bladder here. We're going to make sure our screw is closed, and we're going to put it onto the bladder position. We're going to go ahead and pressure that to the top of our 25 section, maybe a little bit into the caution, but that's about it. We're going to swip that one over, and then we can go ahead and pressurize our cooling system. I'm hearing some peeing over there. We've got it pressurized to our 15, 16 psi, and I see a lot of leaking, and it looks like we're coming out of our radiator hose. Looks like we might have a faulty clamp and a faulty hose up here. All right, well, let's see if we can tighten that up and see what happens. It was pretty loose. I am surprised on that one. Really am. All right, give that one a little bit of a torque. While we're at it, we might as well check all the rest of them. Don't want to, you know, not trust that one either. So and that one had a little bit of a looseness too. So we'll go up here and we'll check the rest of them as well. And you can see right here how these clamps also were a little bit on the loose side as well. So make sure everything's all tightened up on these. Maybe. There we go. That one tightened and the one right there. And hopefully we're all taken care of. Now, how can one tell if we've gone ahead and fixed all of our leaks? Obviously, we're not having any physical leaks anymore, but we want to make sure we're not having a leak down pressure-wise and just not seeing something. So what we've done is we've pressurized our system with the adapter right here, and we've got it pressurized up to our 16 PSI that our cap is rated at, and we just let it sit here for a good 5 or 10 minutes or so just to verify everything is up to snuff. All right, after about 5-10 minutes has gone by, see where we're at, just above 15 PSI. So how about that? We are good to go on the pressure system check. Everything checks out. All in all, it ended up just being a couple of clamps. I even had some thermostats today to be able to swap out on this, thinking it was going to be the seals for the thermostat housings, but in all, just ends up being stupid clamps. Cool deal. Now, of course, after we start this thing up and we gave it a little RPMs, we've got a little bit of a belt squeal to it. Let me see if I can get you guys to hear it real quick. Very slight there. But while I just started it here, it was quite annoying. It had quite a bit of a belt squeak to it. Now I've got a remedy here for you guys, a nice homegrown remedy right here, this good stuff right here, this magic white powder in a bottle that is the best belt dressing you can have after you get coolant all over a belt. Now what's in here, you might ask? Regular old baking soda. So we're going to put this over the belt on the inside and the outside just a little bit. Now, why would you put baking soda on it, you would say? Well, normally people go ahead and put baking soda, an open box, inside of their fridge to get rid of smells. Now, why does it get rid of smells? It gets rid of smells because it pulls moisture out of the air inside of your fridge. So what does it do to these belts? It pulls the moisture away from the rubber and the material inside of them. So when we put it all over the belt and we put it on some of the pulleys, it's going to evenly spread all out to it, and it's going to get the moisture pulled away from the belt, kind of like antiperspirant would. There we go. We've got all that turbo whistle and no belt squeal. All right, now on to our last and final leak. We've got to take care of this annoying little exhaust leak. So you know when you take a blade of grass and you stick it up to your hands and you blow in between it and makes that real high pitch of that whining sound? Well, that's about the same noise that this thing is making. And it's done it quite a few times, and I've taken care of it from what I thought, and I guess not. So what it actually ended up being was the back two exhaust manifold bolts keep on working themselves out. Let's have a look at those right now. All right. Well, we're going to see if you guys can see this here, but we're having a really crap day when it comes to this thing. I'm going to zoom in some here. All right, so now we can see, got it right there at the bottom of the manifold. My bolt is gone. Man, this really sucks. So not only did it loosen itself up all the way, it backed itself all the way out and it's gone. So, big bummer. Well guys, that pretty much sucks. What I did have is I ended up picking up this, some red Loctite to be able to put onto that bolt so that hopefully it would never come out again. Well, I gotta buy some bolts now. So, big bummer on that one. Sorry, little lack of a good ending to this video for you guys, but hopefully at least you guys learned something when it came to the pressure testing and seeing what we found on the cooling system here on the Duramax. Now, if you guys do have any questions when it comes to the tools or what I did for the testing on this vehicle, please feel free to leave those down in the comments below. I'll get to those as soon as I can. We've got some really great stuff coming up here on the channel. If you guys don't remember or not, but we had the old Chrysler 300 that I unveiled one episode but never really got back to. Didn't get back to it after I left the dealership. Well, we decided to bring it back on in now that I've got a place to be able to work on it that's not right outside my garage on the ground. So we're going to be bringing some great content for you guys here in the next couple of weeks on that one. So you make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification so you get notified when I come out with cool, awesome content, just like this one here today. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and as always, you guys stay awesome.